Hi, it's time to take two with Therese for old to new, and I've got two different ways to use the new mask stencils and this Dotted Blooms stamp set. I decided to stamp out my own background panel. Now this is actually the layering portion of the flower that I'm using, and I've got the pink pearl colour. It's a really almost a corally pink colour, and a piece of cardstock. It's at £80 and it's cut larger than what I need, so I figure I can just cut my panel down to suit my project after I finish stamping. And if I do make any errors, then it's very forgiving. I can actually stamp a few more images off to one side or up the top and actually make the panel a bit larger and not have to start all over again. So this is what the mask stencils look like. So they're actually the same kind of material as a normal stencil, but they're thinner. So they're unique in that way, and they're really easy to use. You get both the negative and the positive portion of the image. For my first example, I'm using the negative portion, so that means I've got the actual larger piece, the stencil has the 4 little die cuts in it, and I'm using this as a negative mask. I'm holding it over the coordinating image and simply adding colour, and I'm using my blender brush tool today. You could use a foam blending pad, or you could use a finger dauber, whatever you like to use. I just find these blending tools, they're really gentle, and some of these small little pieces on the stencils can easily bend, so I am being a little bit careful, but this is so easy to do. Now you might notice that there's 4 negative images in this panel, but you only get 3 pieces of the positive portion, and you can understand why if you think about it. The very, very small ones would be impossible to use as a positive mask, so don't go looking for it. It hasn't fallen out of your packet. You don't get the very, very tiny ones, but you can still use them as to add colour with the negative mask. Perfect. Alright, so I'm stamping out the whole branch now and using the coordinating dies to cut that out. I just used some black ink to do that with, and these dies always cut perfectly. I just dropped the stamp down and it just cut it out the way, and it's a long die too. I didn't have to line it up or anything. I'm using one of the sentiments out of the set and just stamping that with some permanent black ink as well. And then I thought it'd be fun to add a layer of vellum over the top. So vellum's difficult to adhere, so I don't want to be able to see any of the tape, so I decided to actually fold the top portion over and adhere that with some tape runner, and then fold my vellum over top, and then I can actually just adhere this whole panel to the front of my top fold card. I did cut this panel down to fit the front of my card. I think I might have forgot to mention that. And because it's going to have a little bit of weight on it, I did add some extra adhesive here too. And I just like the way that the vellum softens everything. For the actual branch, I just used some foam dots to pop that up on top of the vellum, and then just flip the whole card over and use some scissors to cut the edge of the branch off that I no longer need. It wouldn't fit in an envelope. Not with that big thing sticking out of there. So my second design, I went a few different ways with this. I actually started a whole different card and ended up doing this card. Well, I nearly didn't do this card actually. I grabbed a vase out of the Life is Beautiful stamp set and stamped that out with some evening grey ink, and then used the lava rock to stamp out the branch. So this panel is cut the same width as my card, but it's actually longer, and that way I can adjust it after I've done my stamping to make sure it's going to be sitting perfectly on the front of my card. I added a bit of black because the lava rock just didn't seem dark enough, so Now it's time to use the positive portions of this stencil, and this time I have used them before and I adhered them to the front of my card. This time I thought what I might do is just try and hold them in place with my finger. Kind of sounds slack, doesn't it? Now that I think about it, I probably should have just adhered it, but I thought I'd see how I go, and I don't think it did too badly. I'm using the blending brush again because I want it to be fairly subtle, and the colour I'm using is the vanilla cream, which is a really pretty cream colour. There's not many inks that you get in the cream colour, and I was so excited when Altenew released this colour, and it's beautiful. The buttercream is a lot more yellowy, so this is beautiful. Okay, so far so good. Now I'm on to the smaller positive mask. It all got a bit harder here. In retrospect, using the blending brush tool, I possibly should have had a piece of scrap cardstock off to the side and maybe tapped some colour off before I started blending. And those few sharp edges that I got there would probably not been quite so bad. The inks do sort of settle after time, and as they dry they become lighter, so that's just something to be aware of. And when I say settle, I mean they sort of soak into the paper and you do lose some of the sharpness. I did initially add some artist marker to the base of the vase and add a little bit more shading. I wasn't really happy with where it was going until I brought out my pencils, and this is where the card turned around for me. I was almost going to ditch this one. I wasn't really happy with where it was going, and then I thought, well, I might as well just, I've got nothing to lose, I might as well add some colour and see how I go. And I think this just made all of the difference. I didn't do any fancy blending, I kept it very simple. The vase, I did come in with the greys and actually add quite a bit of shading there, and I have sort of stuck to the warm greys here just because of the colours that I used on the actual image. And I think once I added some depth to the image, it really did come to life. So I was actually pretty happy that I stuck with it and finished this card. Now I am going to be having a giveaway at my blog. So if you're here in February 2019, head through the description below, you'll find the link there, and come say hello and you'll have a chance to win. I added a sentiment to the front of the card, so you might have noticed I also added the panel to the front of a card, but the sentiment is from the Wispy Begonia stamp set, and I stamped that with some lava rock ink and added a couple of the clear jewel Nouveau drops. I wanted something that was a bit see-through on top of the flowers. So don't forget to like this video if you like it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Look forward to seeing you here next time. Bye.